But we all heard that it is politics that is a litmus that causes wars. Actually, the reason, but it's true to some extent. But let us not forget that the war as such is a hell of a business. Stakes raised, cash flows, careers soar, but that is only on the political side of the street. On a battlefield side, things look a bit more dire. Let me remind you of the difference between political challenges and military ones. During the year and a half of the war, battles for Kiev, for Bucha and Irpin, for Gostomel, for Azovstal and many others were fought. The modern, absolutely European-looking city of Mariupol literally vanished from the face of the earth. The Russian super-powerful bomb fell on the Mariupol drama theater, where hundreds of people were hiding. And next to the building, there was an absolutely visible inscription in white, giant letters, telling children. That did not help. Terrorist is the terrorist and behaves accordingly. Every day, every week, Russian aggression brings more and more disaster and grief to Ukrainian cities: Vinnytsia, Dnipro, Kryvyi Rih, Kramatorsk, Kherson and Kremenchuk. There is simply no place in Ukraine where Russian missiles cannot reach, and Ukraine is also well aware about life, or better said, existence, under Russian occupation, and the liberation of these lands came at a cost of a great blood and sorrow. The atrocities of the Russian occupiers were revealed to the world. Echelons of stolen property, mutilated lives, devastated destinies, and rapes and mass murder and fire and nameless graves, that is, was Russia brought on Ukrainian land. The occupiers did not care for gender or age. That is a Russian way to be tolerant. You see, just kill them all Ukrainians, that's it. Well, this once again proves that the Russians want nothing else but to simply destroy Ukraine as a country and Ukrainians as a nation. What is it, buddy? What the world thought to be long outdated? Nazi paradigm reborn in the Kremlin. However, the Ukrainians showed the world they can and will return destroy and Russian military arrogance. In April last year, the Ukrainian military sank the Russian warship, the cruiser Moskva, and in July the Ukrainian flag was raised again on Zmyny Island. Autumn 2022 has been marked by Ukrainian armed forces liberating Balaklia, Izum, Kupiansk, and yet another counteroffensive success in the south of the country. The right bank of the Dnipro River is now under complete Ukrainian control. No surprise, in the liberated territories, the world discovers mass graves and mutilated dead bodies, a Russian way of liberating Ukrainians, that is. During the winter of 2023, the Russians were able to completely destroy the city of Bakhmut and seize it. Nothing else but a small city with a zero strategic value that cost the Kremlin billions in dollars, tens of thousands of lives lost, enormous reputational troops morale, and that was a sacrifice in the name of an ill desire to keep calling this burnt zero grounds of Bakhmut Russian. Well, to force the Russian lose that much resources in Bakhmut should be called most stunning victory of Ukraine in this war so far. Mark my words, the Kremlin red walls cracked exactly there and then in Bakhmut. Suit yourself, there are zero military advances for Russians to this very day. And since there are no military advances and successes, the Kremlin grabs a nuclear club as a last resort in an attempt to remind the world that the Russia either has what it wants or turns the planet into nuclear-scorched earth. We need no world without Russia, Mr. Putin said. This is usual Soviet rhetoric. Russians were talking exactly like that when they blasted the Kakhovskaya HPP. I know many of you may not understand this at the moment, but that is and was a disaster of such a scale that you happen to see only in Hollywood movies, maybe. Flooded houses, hundreds of fresh water sources polluted, mass evacuation, hundreds of thousands of hectares of fertile soil, people and animal lives literally flushed into the Black Sea, ecological catastrophe, ecocide. The world's leading humanitarian and security organizations were observing, and expressing their deepest concerns, as usual. The world likes the shows, you see. We all love to swing between despair and exaltation while sitting on our sofas in the safety of our homes. We are waiting for the show right now, aren't we? Waiting for the glorious, swift and fancy summer of counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, as if it really were a new Hollywood blockbuster in real life and time. Well, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Zaluzhny, made it clear that the lives of Ukrainian defenders that are being lost every single moment, even now as we talk for more, are not a show. And therefore, all attacks of Ukrainian forces are carried out with extremely careful planning, and many of them ended with success. Siege of Russian military equipment. It looks like the Kremlin has actually achieved its goal of demilitarization just an awkwardly wrong way. It is Russia that is being demilitarized in Ukraine by Ukraine. I mean, at this stage, it is fair to say the Russian army is the main military supplier of Ukrainian one. Well done, Mr. Putin. What else was it that Putin called a reason for this outrageous invading warfare of his that he went all wrong? Oh sure, the beloved Kremlin slogan, what was it? Stop NATO from growing bigger. And the desire of Ukraine to become a full-fledged member of the bloc Moscow called NATO at our borders. So Putin was likely, oh God, finally I can start my war and tell the world I do it in the name of peace and global security. But it somehow turned out that the Kremlin's threats have little, if any, effect, at least the effect they expected in Kremlin. After looking around a bit and seeing that bloody mess Russia brought to its borders, Finland just joins NATO. So NATO grows bigger, not only in the contrary to all the Kremlin plans, but literally thanks to them. Finland becomes the 31st member of the alliance after a long period of being militarily neutral, but enough is enough. Also, Sweden will join NATO this autumn. Moreover, NATO's open door policy is constantly heard in relation to Ukraine as well. All partners stated that there is no doubt that Ukraine will become a member of the bloc as soon as the war ends. I believe, looking at what Putin really achieved to this very day, Zelensky must admit Putin really is a great strategist when it comes to turning Ukraine towards NATO.
Ukraine is now closer to NATO than ever before. Allies reaffirmed that Ukraine will become a member of NATO and agreed to remove the requirement for a membership action plan. This will change Ukraine's membership path from a two-step process to a one-step process.
Well, of course, it takes time. At the July summit in Vilnius, Kyiv did not hear the much-anticipated invitation to become a member of the bloc. Instead, the G7 countries gave quite powerful security guarantees to Ukraine. Other pro-Ukrainian discussions were heard aloud on the sidelines of the alliance. For example, the head of the NATO Secretary General's office, Stian Jensen, allowed the possibility of Ukraine joining the alliance due to the possible cession of part of its territories to the aggressor country. Jensen emphasized that Ukraine should decide for itself when and on what terms it wants to conduct negotiations. And he added that there are significant changes in the issue of Ukraine's future membership in NATO. According to him, everyone is interested in the fact that the war does not happen again in the future. I don't know what to say in this regard. On one hand, maybe Ukraine will decide that Russian mindset infected Donbass region no longer is needed by Ukrainian, worth being amputated in order to stop the gangrene. On the other hand, so much Ukrainian blood already spilled, so many casualties, so many, and the relatives will no doubt demand an answer. Was it all in vain? So that is a hell of a choice for Ukrainian authorities. Or maybe not.